referee and gained a bit of...
Could have been. So Ali was able to recover and Cooper wasn't able to capitalise. And in the end, Cooper received a cut in the following round.
Henry's problem wasn't his heart or his power. Henry's problem, his eyebrows and his cheeks. He was lacerated, cut to bits.
He cuts Cooper and goes back to America still undefeated.
Ali, from that moment, had a great deal of respect for Henry Cooper, which endured right to the end of Cooper's life. And he said, when that left hook hit him, it hit him so hard, even his ancestors in Africa felt the punch.
After beating Cooper, Ali's professional record stood at 19 wins from 19 fights, which earned him the chance to fight the much-feared heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston.
Before the Ali and Liston fight, Ali had been stalking him. His backers in Louisville had paid for him to get on a plane and go to Las Vegas to harass Liston when he was training, to harass Liston before and after his fight with Floyd Patterson in Las Vegas. In fact, Ali invades the ring. He was inside Sonny Liston's tunnel vision.
Sonny Liston was the man in American boxing, and the build-up was something which nobody had ever really seen before. Ali would drive to Liston's house at 3 a.m. in the morning and sit outside and shout abuse at him to try and rile him. He said in the pre-match press conferences he was a big ugly bear and Ali was going to donate him to the zoo afterwards. And Liston was thinking, who is this guy? He's a young pretender and he's coming into my ring to tell me how he's going to beat me.
Here's the thing, nobody thought Ali could do it. I believe inside the Ali camp there was a crisis.
I want that bear.
And what's going to happen
him bad.
Red stripes, weighing 210, and champion Cassius Clay.
Well, right from the first bell, Liston charged out at Ali, and it was clear he wanted to rush him and catch him off guard. But Ali was so light on his feet, so nimble, that he made Liston look really awkward.
Cassius Clay on the move as we see, looking to get Sonny to run.
It was obvious in the first bell that Liston, the world champion, had miscalculated. He hadn't factored in how fast and how elusive and how good, and I also think how powerfully built and how strong Ali was.
At the end of the fourth round, he went back to his corner and he complained that his eyes were burning, and Ali said he couldn't carry on. And the reason for that was Liston had applied some ointment to his gloves, and it had got into Ali's face and had really created problems for his eyesight, which was, of course, beyond the rules, but apparently it's something that Liston used to do.
What's wrong with Clay?
I see that, Joe. His eyes are bothering him. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know exactly what happened. They're yelling from Cassius Clay's corner. Something got in his right eye.
And he went back out there, and the sweat and the tears which were flowing at the time washed the ointment away, and Ali managed to work his way back into the fight. And then when it came to the end of the sixth round, Liston sat on his stool and never got up again.
They might be stopping it. That might be all, ladies and gentlemen.
What slowly unfolded inside that ring at the Convention Center in Miami was not only one of the biggest shocks in boxing history, but it was a masterclass on how to beat the bully. And then at the end, as he said, I shocked the world. Then he started pointing at different journalists at ringside. He said, I told you I was taking names, and I'm taking names, and he wasn't joking.
In the early 1960s, Ali became very close with the American Muslim leader and human rights activist, Malcolm X. And it was a friendship that was making headlines across America.
Well, Malcolm X was an American Muslim leader and also somebody who fought very hard for human rights. And Ali first met him in 1962 when he was a rising star. He was clearly really affected by what Malcolm X was saying. He attended many of his speeches and rallies over the next few years.
He's been in some circles quite widely criticised for his relationship with Malcolm X, but I think if you try and put yourself in his shoes, you can see he's a black guy in a country where black people are not getting a fair deal. A lot of the black people, I would imagine, they weren't really in a position to change that. But Malcolm X, he was.
And their relationship was a little bit like father and son. in the sense that Malcolm X embraced Clay and Ali and tutored him and talked to him. He was a very charismatic man, and most of what he said seemed to appeal to Clay. But Ali was having to secretly go to Nation of Islam meetings, and mostly with Malcolm X, or they were generally just spending time in hotels.
And a great deal of what Malcolm X was saying really resonated with Ali, and he very quickly became a spiritual mentor for him, because Ali saw Malcolm X as somebody who was standing up for black power and black human rights at a time in America when there was segregation and a good deal of racism towards what Ali saw as his people. So the more he listened to Malcolm X, the more he spoke to him, the more that Malcolm X became an influence on him.
Clay almost aligns himself with Malcolm X. Malcolm X seemed to become like a spiritual mentor to him, and
it was an announcement
against it. Even the black writers were against it. The pedestal as some kind of radical, as some kind of bad guy, because he knew his guy was a good guy. It was a tricky time that for the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad and the way he ran the nation, monitored left, right and centre. And that was...
So he was given the name Massive Star, and if you want to look at it in the cold light of day, it could have been a risky move as well, because it would jeopardise many money-making opportunities and sponsorship deals which he was setting up and could potentially win as his boxing career grew. But that wasn't him. That by taking a name from the Nation of Islam, he was really doing something important, not for him, and he always stuck to it.
In 1965, a year after their first fight, onto a blow that was labeled as the Phantom Punch.
206.
Well, the rematch with Liston was one. There'd been so much anticipation after what had happened in the first fight when our Phantom Punch, and Liston hit the deck.
Ali knocks Liston out in the first round with what is called a Phantom Punch. But here's the thing: if you hit somebody on the chin perfectly, you knock them out. That's why he's called the greatest.
And even Ali was surprised that Liston had hit you're out. And that was the end of the fight. And the public were let down. And I think Ali felt let down deep inside, because he wanted to take on Liston at his best. And there were all sorts of rumours circulating that Liston had huge debts and he bet against himself, and that's why he took a dive. And if you look at slow motion replays of the fight, there is a chopping right hand from Ali which does catch Liston, but whether it was strong enough to actually knock him out, we'll never know.
In 1967, Ali was drafted into the U.S. Army, but due to his religious views, he refused the draft. It was a decision that was going to have major repercussions on his personal life and boxing career. And shortly after he rejected the call of the Army, his boxing license was revoked and his title was stripped away.
Well, by 1967, Ali was reaching the peak as a boxer, but of course the Vietnam War was carrying on at the same time, and in that year he was drafted to serve in the army, but he refused, saying he wasn't going to fight because of his religious beliefs, and he famously said he had no problem with the Viet Cong. But of course the American authorities weren't going to allow this to happen, and he was still called up to become drafted into the army, but when his name was called, he refused to stand up, and basically he refused to fight.
Bronze heavyweight champion Cassius Clay at a federal court in Houston is found guilty of laws by refusing to be inducted.
Refuses to cross the line. New York had dropped the rest of America following. For 4